This is Saturn Girl. Like this video and subscribe to my channel. Comment below because I want to know what you think and it helps me out with the algorithm. Also, please click the bell when you subscribe. It'll notify you when my new videos drop and they're the best. But anyway, last video we talked about Mama Venus entering her sign of fall, Virgo, on October the 8th, in just a few days. And she will remain there until November the 8th. I think that's a little strange, but it's interesting, right? So the last video, we talked a little bit about what this means in general. We finished off with a few bullet points about what this means for you in particular. We're going to talk about that a bit more and look at your horoscopes. Because that's what you vultures came here for. You came here for your horoscopes. You just want to suck all my blood dry. You just want to take from me, don't you? Well, I'm not saying I would mind. But anyway, well, what does this mean for you personally? As I began to say last time, the impulse towards submission and subservience is strong. So it's a time to put extra effort into representing your own interests, standing up for yourself, being upfront and direct, not beating around the bush, right? Be honest about what it is you want, because it's the only way you're going to get it. My mom, who's also a Virgo Venus, always used to tell me, Frankie, it's only the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. I mean, she's right. Sort of why I became the trans Karen. I mean, not really, but you feel me, right? So this is the transit where we get a little mousy ourselves and we expect everyone to read our minds. And I'm sorry, I don't care how woo you are. You can't read minds, all right? As much as you'd like to think so. Well, what else happens? We often see our own health issues, right? Like getting sick, colds, flus, and even COVID, right? I mean, I really recommend that people wear masks again, especially during cold and flu season, if nothing else, to protect yourself and others. Viruses seem to get more prevalent when Venus is falling in Virgo. I had COVID twice already. And last year, I got a really bad virus and my lymph nodes swelled up like a bullfrog. It was awful. Also, you may feel a little bit down, right? Venus is Our Lady of Pleasure and Fun, but she feels absolutely guilty for it in Virgo, doesn't she? So you really have to work hard to find or allow yourself pleasure and enjoyment, don't you? Well, especially when you're wallowing in self-pity. It's good to have a sense of duty. It's good to have a sense of responsibility, right? It's also good to maintain a bit of balance so that you enjoy. If you don't enjoy life, you're just gonna be, I mean, come on, right? Anyway, but to understand what this means in your particular life, we need to do your horoscopes, right? So we're going to look at your horoscopes because what matters here is also what houses Venus rules for you. Because that'll tell us how this personally affects you. And remember, we do these horoscopes for each rising sign. So it'll be most applicable if you know your rising sign. If you don't, you can use your birth time to run your chart through, I don't know, astro.com or another reputable app or site, and it'll show you your rising sign. If you don't know your birth time, then you can watch this for whatever sign your sun is in, okay? But let's get started here. Well, number one, let's go to Aries Rising here. Oh, look, there we are with Aries Rising. So for Aries Rising, that means Venus is entering the 6th house of obligations and illness and rules the 2nd house of money, and the 7th house of relationships. So the first thing that comes to mind is, have you had any medical bills lately? If not, you might. It could be a health issue that you had to endure, or from a partner. And it could have come up last month, and you could be picking up the pieces, either financially or in terms of your relationship. When Venus is in the 6th house, it can sometimes be a healing influence, sometimes prompting us inward towards reconciling and moving on. She also asks us to take on responsibilities and follow through with our obligations. But please, 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 please do not overwhelm yourself. It's better to do a couple things well than many things half-assed, right? But let's go on to Taurus Rising here. What about our Taurus Rising friends? Oh, wait, what am I doing? I should be going by hours. Hours. So Taurus Rising friends. So for Taurus Rising, that means Venus enters the 5th house, right? Of pleasure and children. Rules the 1st house of self and the 6th house of obligations and illnesses. So you may have to call in sick for a couple of days coming up, either to look after yourself or perhaps your kid. Or you could find yourself consumed by parental obligations. Like, we're always a chauffeur, aren't we? You know, between school and gymnastics, or cheer and sports and practice. You know what I'm talking about. Whether you have kids or not, though, the key thing is finding time for what? Fun and pleasure. Because you'll likely find yourself mired in tasks and obligations. So you're going to see a theme running through all these about fun and pleasure, because that's what Venus is all about. And she's not great at it in Virgo. Now, please, all you Virgo Venuses out there are going to be protesting me. But just, be a little honest about yourself. Anyway, what about Gemini Rising? So for Gemini Rising homies, right? Venus enters your 4th house here of parents and home and origins, and then rules the 12th house of isolation and mental health, right? And also the 5th house of children and pleasure. So you may hear tell of a sick parent, or maybe news, right, that their condition is getting better. It could just be that they've had mental health issues from dealing with your children, right? Because sometimes when you see the 5th house ruler in the 4th house, your kids are over there, right? Staying with them or something. Maybe you took a trip with your spouse or whatever. Now, Venus in the 4th house, right? Also your parents could be dealing with their own mental health issues too, on a serious note. We can't ignore that, right? Now, Venus in the 4th house, though, also gives us a desire to beautify our home and living space, right? Decorating! Although, because it's Virgo, it could just be the practicality of cleaning and making sure that everything just works properly. Like, does this light switch work right? Does this light bulb? Like, I have a light bulb flickering in my bathroom. I gotta go change. Right? And appliances. Anything that washes anything needs to work, right? Because it's Virgo. And Venus is cleanliness. So, let's move on to Cancer Rising. Cancer Rising. So this means Venus enters the 3rd house here of siblings and local area. Rules the 11th house of hopes, wishes, and friends. And the 4th house of home and parents, right? So what I think of is, have you been anxious about an assignment or a project? Have you been procrastinating? Have you been feeling incredibly uninspired by anything other than deadlines? Well, you may finally find some inspiration and make some valuable progress on your tasks during this transit. And you may also want to get more involved in your community, like the 3rd house, right? That could be helping with planning Halloween parties or school events. Or maybe you're just a hermit crab that finally comes out of her shell, wanting to attend a party, right? You could also reconnect with a sibling after an extended hiatus, because third house is also siblings. But let's move on to Leo. My Leo homies. My Leo friends. Why are you meowing, cat? You're just yelling at me. He's always yelling at me. He's always yelling at me. Anyway, Leo, right? So that means Venus enters the second house of money, right? Rules the 10th house of life direction and the third house of siblings and local area. So I'm thinking, did you apply for a promotion? Or did a new opportunity emerge? Perhaps a new client or some sort of professional recognition. Doesn't even have to be professional. People would just be like, wow, that was great, right? You may reap a small reward from your past efforts, but it will likely be a mixed bag because, of course, Venus doesn't have fun in Virgo. It's sort of like someone giving you a really nice treat that just expired yesterday. You may have luck with money, but you may not enjoy it. Probably because it just goes right to paying for necessities. But appreciate all the little gains. Appreciate the little W's you get. Things could be worse, no? Anyway, speaking of worse, let's go to our Virgo Rising friends. Virgo Rising, the woman of the hour. So that means Venus, well, I just arbitrarily say woman, you know. Venus enters the first house here, right? The first house of self rules the 9th house of spirituality and higher learning, as well as the 2nd house of money. So when Venus is in our first house, it's a time to sparkle, right? Venus in Virgo, though, doesn't really know how to sparkle without jet dry or some good dish soap, right? So it could be another mixed bag for you. You may feel the urge to spend money on yourself or spice up your appearance. You could be attracted to a new type of aesthetic, and there could be something foreign about it or from another culture or nation, because it is the 9th house, right? The 9th house being represented. Well, you also may find yourself changing your appearance because it's the first house, right? Changing your appearance to fit your internal values, right? 9th house stuff. Whether it's spiritual, political, moral, or social. I don't know what that looks like to you, but you may want to dress the part that you feel like you're playing on the inside. Well, what about Libra? What about our Libra Rising friends? So that means Venus enters your 12th house of isolation and mental health, rules your 8th house of death and debt, as well as the 1st house of self. So mental health and healing past trauma often come up with this kind of thing, you see? So it's likely that painful memories from childhood rear their ugly heads. I dropped my 8-ball. That's never happened to me before. It's like, you know, when people say on dates, oh my gosh, I swear this has never happened to me before. Anyway. So going back to Libra, before I drop this again. So like we said, processing painful memories from childhood. These things may rear their ugly heads. So, and this means allowing ourselves to feel things, right? That's how we process. And to be honest with ourselves about how we feel and why. So, Libra Rising may be grieving or struggling with a loss of some kind. Take care of yourself, because mental health issues could also be under focus right now. You may also find a therapist, a confidant, or someone who can help you emotionally. So, well, let's move on to our Scorpio Rising friend. For Scorpio Rising, that means Venus enters the 11th house of hopes and friends, rules the 7th house of relationships and partnerships, as well as the 12th house of isolation and mental health, right? So this usually means a more social time or more social activity. Often we make more connections, or we need them for support, right? You may want to find like-minded people to belong with, to share ideas. You've perhaps been feeling isolated or stressed out, probably by an unusually high volume of work. It could also be that you start a hobby or mutual interest with a partner. The first thing I always think of is like cooking classes and stuff. But it could be any number of things, like take them to an astrology group or dancing or painting, like salsa dancing. The point is finding enjoyment in mutual interests, having a tribe. Well, what about our Sagimattarius friends? Let's go to Sagimattarius. Sagimattarius. So that means Venus what? Enters the 10th house of life direction, rules the 6th house of obligations and illnesses, as well as the 10th house of hopes and friends. So you'd think this would be a great transit for your career and visibility, right? But Venus also rules the 6th house and isn't happy in Virgo, so it could be a little bit of public embarrassment. Probably at work. This would feel like being recognized for doing something wrong, right? Like everyone comes around to tell you like, hey, did you know we're putting TPS reports or cover sheets on our TPS reports now? And 8 different people come around to tell you about it. Well, just own it and move on. More positively, you could see new opportunities arise from friends, supporters, or patrons. You may also need to work on selling yourself when you don't feel valuable at all. Virgo. Excuse me. Speaking of valuable. But it's your authenticity that makes you valuable, you see? Or rather compelling and attractive. That's what I mean by valuable. Well, what about our Capricorn Rising friends? Let's go to Capricorn Rising. So this means Venus enters the 9th house of spirituality and foreign travel, rules the 5th house of pleasure and children, as well as the 10th house of life direction. Virgo Venus makes me think of nuns. Naughty, naughty nuns. I really do have issues, don't I? Anyway, a woman may influence your beliefs. Perhaps a female mentor shows up or shows you a new way of thinking, right? Venus isn't happy though in Virgo, so it may be an unwelcomed influence. It could feel judgy, perhaps, imposing or coercive in some way. Maybe Venus isn't a literal person. Maybe it's instead finding a new path. Maybe that's a new spiritual path, or maybe it's a career path. Either way, you're going to crave a sense of meaning and purpose from whatever it is, but it's up to you to make whatever you do meaningful and purposeful, because I promise you, it doesn't matter what you do, it's how you do it. You could make sitting on the toilet a spiritual event. Anyway, what about Aquarius Rising? This is me. This is me and my homies. So this means Venus enters our 8th house of death and debt, rules our 4th house of origins, right, and home, as well as our 9th house of beliefs and spirituality. So Venus here can be like a little therapist, encouraging us to face painful memories because it's the 8th house, the things we hide from ourselves, including trauma. It's often things that we've avoided, probably for a long time. Or she can be like a little accountant, telling us to budget and mind our expenses. She also indicates investment here. I know in my case, like I'm having to spend more money on my business, right? In order to try and make more money. Chances are, though, debt and expense have been on your mind. I know they've been on my mind. So in my case, in my example, I just want to mention here for you too, because it seems like it's coming on a bit early, but Mercury's about to tip into Virgo too right now. But I just started, or sorry, Libra, pardon me. But I just started being flooded with memories of shitty shit that I've done, right? And stuff that I've said to other people. I frequently talk about how much I was bullied when I was younger, but I've often forgotten about the mean stuff that I've said and done. So, like, just starting today, I've been feeling this really compelling impulse to make amends with people. And forgiveness is definitely something of the 8th house, isn't it? Well, this could also be like a death in your beliefs. You may have been struggling with legacy beliefs that you've had, and you've been outgrowing them. But this can feel like rejecting your origins or rejecting your past. And that itself can feel alienating. Like we lose our home or our family. But like the Buddha said, learn to be your own refuge. Because who else could be your refuge? So I say that for myself. Well, what about Pisces Rising? Let's go to our Pisces friends, our Pisces friends. Well, so that means Venus enters the 7th house, rather, of partners, rules the 4th. Wait, what am I doing here? Rules the 3rd. I'm sorry. I got turned around. Rules the 3rd of siblings, right, in local area, as well as the 8th house, right? The 8th house of other people's stuff, right? So when Venus enters the 7th house, relationships and romance often come under focus. But with an unhappy Venus, it won't be all rainbows and flowers. You could likely have the urge to merge if you're not currently in a relationship. So in that case, go out and have fun. But you may meet someone who is overly critical or perhaps emotionally unavailable. If you are in a relationship, you'll both likely want to spend more time together. Try out new local restaurants, right? The 3rd house stuff. New local restaurants and fun things around town, right? Enjoy the romance and the closeness, but just don't push it, because Virgo Venus gets its fill of affection quite quickly and may still need her space, despite being needy, right? So, well, anyway, I hope this was useful for you. I hope you can use this practically in your life. Remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell so you get notified when new videos drop. And please check out my other videos. They're wonderful. There's tons of educational content. And sometimes I'm a little fun and cute, you know. So, I also do the best readings. My contact information is below in the description. Now, as I always say, I love you. You're beautiful. And have a wonderful whatever it is that you're having.